Welcome to the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. Whether inside or outside the loop, we are talking everything soccer in Houston. Y'all ready? Let's get it. Houston, welcome to another episode of the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. My name is Rudy Segura, and alongside Cristian Putalias, we're going to be here to entertain you as much as we can. Christian.
As much as we can.
If we can do it for the kids, man, we can do it for everybody else, man. If we can entertain a bunch of kids, we got it. But obviously a little late, but, you know, better late than never, I suppose, to talk a little bit about the Houston Dynamo and the rest.
The rest.
But, you know, obviously, I think last episode that I recorded by myself, I was looking at the episode and you even told me, man, you said you were going to be, it's going to be a short episode. And then there being like an hour and 15 minutes. And like 40 minutes was just talking about the Dash and like all the crap they're going through. So since nothing has changed, there's really no point of talking about the Houston Dash. Like,
they won and that's it.
Yeah, they won. A goal from another game, as people would say. I mean, you know, Yuki doesn't do much. But when she scored, I believe, 2 goals, and both of them have been bangers. So it's like, Jesus, like you kind of want her to get a clean hit on a ball, and chances are clearly that they may go in, dude. So sure. That's they'll be playing, I guess. Yes, you mentioned they won 1-0. Sorry, they won playing at home, and I could not tell you. Seattle. They beat Seattle Reign. I was like, I cannot tell you who they played. But obviously they won 1-0. And they'll be playing Saturday night at 6:30 p.m. They'll be visiting Orlando Pride, who's, I believe, still undefeated.
22 games.
Yeah. And so pretty incredible that they're doing so good. When they came and visit, I believe they only won 1-0 or 2-0. So I expect the opposite, even though Ricky Clark did speak to media today, being Thursday, and mentioned how they're the most dangerous team out there. And you look at all the numbers, then God, that just sounds like a very stupid comment. You know, when you're looking at with all due respect, that just sounds idiotic to say that.
Delusional. To say the least.
I mean, yeah, of course they have Ordonez, they have a couple players but if you take the season overall, and even if you take the last 6 games, that's not the case. So again, it'd be
it's just that delusional as people saying the Dynamo suck.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Some people won Ben Olsen out still, man.
That's wild.
But it is what it is. Don't do drugs, kids. As I'm eating a gummy bear here. Of course, there's gonna be a very tough match, very tough ask for the Dash against the Pride, and that kind of rhyme, so it has to be good. And so I don't know. I don't want to say for sure a loss because they've kind of surprised with some draws and some obviously wins like they did last weekend. But it's gonna be one to watch for sure for Houston Dash fans, especially. Then we'll hit right away into Houston Dynamo 2. They come from winning.
Yes, 2-1.
Mm-hmm. They played here at home, right. Colorado 2. Trying to sneak into the playoffs. They're trying, right? There's
right there.
Is it 2 games left?
2 games left, yes. One away, 1 at home.
So they close out at home.
They close out at home, so hopefully that is a good thing. But the bad thing is that they play at Tacoma this Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, at 9 o'clock. And Tacoma, as we say in Spanish, los tiene de hijo. So it's gonna be a tough one.
Especially like in playoffs, they've gone against each other. Last year they literally picked the Dynamo.
Yeah,
to play, and they beat the crap out of them. You know, and obviously
they'll probably do that this year too.
Yeah, they did the same thing the first year. So there's a little bit of a rivalry being built up there, similar to I guess what the Dynamo. You know, if you're saying Tacoma's their dad, Seattle Sounders are the Houston Dynamo first team dad, And when they play at home, and hell, even when they play here in Houston, they just can't seem to get the best of Seattle, man. You would think that you would do better. In Seattle, it makes a lot of sense make it be difficult for any team just because of the travel and everything and the weather, but that shouldn't be an excuse. If they really want to make the playoffs, with obviously a couple of young guys that have come in, like we're gonna butcher the guy's name, Biatoja, um,
Batioja, yeah.
scoring a goal, which you said it was like a
Yeah.
cliche, not the cleanest of goals. But a goal at the end of the day in your first game should boost your morale, your confidence.
100%.
So who knows? Maybe they go over there and they finally get a win over there in Tacoma. But Christian, before we move on, as we are trying to make this a quick episode today, this is going to probably be 3 hours long. If you can tell the people, man, how they can connect.
Yes, sir. You can always go to the website, BayouCitySoccer.net. That's where you're going to be able to find anything and everything that is related, as we say, to the Houston Dynamo, Houston Dynamo Dos, and Houston Dash. Go check out everything that we do online on our social medias, on Instagram, Twitter, aka X, Facebook, and did I say Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
I think I did. And
YouTube,
check out our YouTube page
mm-hmm.
as well. If you're watching this, you're probably on the YouTube page. So shout out and to you. Subscribe and like if you haven't, and leave us a review also on the where you listen. That is also helps for us to be boosted and get more eyes and ears towards us. And all we're trying to do is expand the knowledge, or I don't know if knowledge, but at least
Increase the community for sure.
Yeah, the Houston soccer community. So give us a follow, and as we continue to grow, the community grows, and hopefully everybody grows in the city of Houston in a soccer way. So check us out.
For sure. And obviously, like always, me mention Ugly Guppy. You can see me and Christian got them hats. Man, they're nice hats.
I wear it every day, bro.
Me too. Me too.
It's comfortable.
I like this hat. Yeah, especially it's open in the back, so you can wear it when it's hot. And
for sure.
It's a nice hat, man. But yeah, Ugly Guppy obviously hook us up, and they do a really, really good job in everything that we've seen. And hit them up if you're looking for shirts for your quinceañera, for your team, your baseball team, little league team. Hit them up. Definitely, they do a very good job. Carlos, he'll definitely get you right. So, if you have a need for advertising anything, hit up Ugly Guppy for sure. All right, Christian, Houston Dynamo, man, first team has played very well. Obviously, last week they had 3 games, and out of those 3, if you talk to Dustin, he probably told you that there was 0 points that they were going to gain out of 9. I thought there was going to be 4 points out of 9, but if somebody would have said, you're getting 7 out of 9 against the team you're facing and where they're at, you would have signed that document right there and then. So pretty incredible run, but obviously they finished that off with Austin before getting that week break, and they'll come around and travel to the Northwest against Seattle this weekend. But again, Austin, a place that never won. They had been 5 matches at Q2 before this, and all of them have been wins for Austin. And then they've never drawn. Austin and the Dynamo had never drawn. There were 7 wins for Austin and 3
for Houston.
Houston at the time. So pretty incredible. That's just how it's been. And with Austin obviously having the majority of those to begin with. So now it's 7-4. Big win. You watched the game, man. Tell us a little bit about what you saw, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of seems like typical Dynamo. Obviously, without Ache, things do change, a lot in a way, because he is as I say, the commander, the guy that takes the reins of the midfield and makes the whole team play. So it does change it, the way that the team kind of sits on the field and the way that they play. But then also you can bring in Coco Carrasquilla, which can play the same position, but he is a complete different player, in my opinion. He's more offensive minded in a
Very
way.
different player. I agree.
Yeah, but I think that is the best position for him. As we always talk about, Panamanian Coco and Houstonian Coco are two different Cocos, and I feel like the Panamanian plays what he has been playing these last couple games that Achacha has been
Hmm.
out, and that's what suits him the better, in my opinion. And obviously he would play that position as we see it, but Achacha does a better job, I think, in both sides of the ball,
Hmm.
offensively and defensively as well. And just because Achacha kind of gives you a different rhythm, right? But I think the rhythm with Coco, it's also an interesting one because he's very frontal in the way that he goes into the attack quicker, in my
Hmm.
opinion, than Achacha. With those long crosses from one side of the field, trying to find, behind the back of the defender to get Aliyu, kind
Hmm.
of making that run,
Or Ponce
and he
making that run.
or
Yep. Hmm.
exactly. So he's always looking for the long balls. When Achacha is probably looking for the through pass
The
in a way,
safer
right?
pass as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think it's a good showing going to Austin, and I think we dominated, or the Houston Dynamo dominated most of the match, in my opinion.
Hmm.
At least it kind of felt like that. It never felt like Austin was dangerous. They
Hmm.
had a couple of dangerous attacks, or some parts of the game that you were like, "Ooh, they got close." But overall, as a game, it just felt like the Dynamo had control of the game
Hmm.
from beginning to end. And I mean, that's what we've been seeing a lot lately, but it's good to know that we can go to Austin, right?
Hmm.
After, you talked about the whole history, but it's good to know that we can go to Austin and compete against them in their own home where they feel comfortable,
Hmm.
and come out with a good result. Not a great, 3-0 result, but a 1-0 sometimes is the beginning of
Hey,
something.
you take it, and you're right. Obviously, I think Austin and the Dynamo played very similar, but for the long stretches, the Dynamo definitely had possession. In the
Yeah.
very beginning, Austin was full throttle, like the first 5 minutes of the game, first 7 minutes of the game. Um, they were inside of the Dynamo's, like basically near their goal the whole first 7 minutes, and then it got the same. You got the same thing towards the end of the second half as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, before Coco scores that goal, you see them getting very close, getting a bunch of corners, and what looked to be like a bicycle kick that actually was a deflection from thinking of Sebastian Driussi that actually pushed it towards goal. But no, overall, I mean, the game was a very well played game. And would you agree? Going back to Coco Carrasquilla, best game for Coco Carrasquilla this season in Houston
Probably,
Dynamo.
probably, yeah, probably. And yeah, I would say so. Maybe this season, maybe I don't know if in the whole time that he's been here, but
Hmm.
honestly, one of the best ones. And as we say, that only happens when somebody's not occupying that spot that he's in.
Hmm.
So, Achacha not being there obviously puts all the weight of the team on his shoulders,
Yeah.
and he steps up. So that's good.
And I mean, I honestly, I hadn't even really looked at Food Mob, which, by the way, if you don't have Food
Yeah,
Mob, download it. You can find every article under the Houston Dynamo and Dash news tab. So it'll keep you updated with anything that comes out, not just from us, but from the club as well. And pretty much that's it. Um, but yeah, look at football. Carrasquilla had a 8.6, so he was by far the highest rated player on the field, followed by Steve Clark and Sviatchenko. I mean, he put a really good match. And that's one thing. In the very beginning, I think he Coco must have gotten knocked down at least 5 times
yeah,
in the first 15 minutes of the match. I
for
mean,
sure. He was getting hit.
he was getting hit. He was doing he was doing a good job of waiting to the last minute to make whatever pass and connection, and Austin players would reach and get the best of him. Obviously, I
Yeah,
I think even Escalante was, their starting center back. He got a yellow card early on, and they had to get him out because that dude always loses his fuse, and that right there changes games. Whenever you start getting to people's psyche, and they can't, control their, I guess, them aggressiveness at the end of the day. So,
yeah,
um, not necessarily changes everything, because the game again was very very close. But then you had a few in Dynamo's perspective. Ezequiel Ponce comes out injured. I think it was like the 60th minute. It looked like either a calf or hamstring injury. From what I've heard, I think he's going to be out for the game against Seattle, which would make sense. Don't risk him, especially in Seattle.
Yeah. No,
So
true.
that's going to open the opportunity for which has to or begs the question, right? Are we going to see Sebastian Ferreira back in as a starting lineup? Because you're also Blessing came out injured as well, and it looked like it could have been a concussion. So who knows? He may also be out. Which, if you ask Joey Stats, he's going to tell you, not Ferreira, but throw in Sebastian Kovalchik and Blessing and figure out. But whenever you're taking Blessing also out of the picture,
Yeah.
then what exactly are you gonna do? It's gonna be interesting, man. What are you thinking going into that match? Well, those injuries. Let's just go
Yeah.
stick with those injuries.
Man, it's a good question because I mean, honestly, if you don't put Seba Ferreira, there's literally nobody else that can take that spot. Considering the fact that if Blessing is going to be out, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of plays around. I want to see Gaines a lot more. To be honest, I feel like we haven't given him the chance, and as in we, I mean the team. Uh, but I feel like he has a little bit more to give in this team. I know maybe going to Seattle and putting him to start against a Seattle would be tough because as much as we would want to like relax and we're kind of the team's already in the playoffs. You still want to go strong and try to collect at least a point over there,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to put your best 11 in there. So I don't know. Maybe go with like a back five. To kind of like that you're kind of depleted up front. If you're gonna have a couple of guys out, no HH, no DPs basically, right?
I know they
As we
piece.
were saying, and no Latif Blessing who can also give you a defensive and an attacking.
He's very good. Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like he can play on both sides of the field. Maybe you obviously Gaines plays on the left side with Aliu would be, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can throw Aliu as a 9 and then put Gaines on the left. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some
Um,
switches that you can do.
yeah,
Keeping the same lineup as we've seen, the four
yeah,
three three. You can probably even, I mean, you don't want to, but now that if Blessing's out, that you may be forced to move Coco out wide like he's been doing and maybe put in a Brooklyn Reigns or put a Brooklyn Reigns out of wing and
yeah,
keep Aliu and if especially if you don't want to see Ferreira back. But before we move on completely from Austin, obviously we were there. Bayou City Soccer was there. Myself and David, we went out to the game. I know it's a stadium that you had already visited. First time for
yeah.
me. In general, I took a picture one time from outside. That's as close as I had gotten. A really cool stadium, and
It's
very
nice.
nicely done. Has a lot of nice touch and detailed throughout the stadium that makes it very um what's it called? It's a very pretty stadium for sure, and
Very modern. Yeah.
very modern, wide open, obviously.
Open.
Yeah, and so you get a nice little breeze throughout. And my biggest takeaways from the stadium and stuff, obviously, it was made to be a soccer specific stadium, something that I mean, the Cho Energy Stadium, it's a soccer specific stadium, but it doesn't necessarily feel that way. Everything's very, very small. Obviously, not a lot
Mhm.
of money was spent to be built, so like the store is tiny. I mean, their store is probably was 2 stories, so that tells you that much. And it's probably 4 times the size of like the Houston Dynamos, um
Right.
the store. And as a hat loving person, there was a few hats that I wanted to grab just because they were cool hats, Of course, they're Austin FC, and I'm not gonna pick them up. But I talking to the communications guys that were there at the game, and they were saying Mayhew's a nice stadium, and I mentioned kind of similar thing. I'm like, yeah, and their response was, yeah, man, wish we could take some of this and kind of put it into our stuff in Houston. And it goes back to the marketing
Yeah.
department that we keep continuing to mention. But yeah, anyways, so apart from that was a really cool little uh way to see the stadium and the practice box and all that stuff, which I will say though, the press box itself was interesting. I mean, I feel like obviously us being fans as well of the team, right, that we cover, but we keep it very professional, and not just us by city. I would say like pretty much everybody that's in the media box in Houston keeps it pretty. If the other team scores or the Dynamo score, it stays pretty quiet unless it's kind of like one of those moments,
Yeah.
that just kind of comes out of nowhere. But oh man, it was just the way that they were celebrating, hooping, hollering. It's a little annoying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They were too green. They were definitely too green, and it was so good. I'm gonna say this because it wasn't me that did it. It was actually David. So David was he kept telling me the same thing. It's like, man, this is getting annoying. Like he was just kind of like telling me in my ear, and obviously, 80 something minutes is getting tense. Austin looks like they're gonna get the winner. You just kind of felt that, oh, here it comes again for the Dynamo, and obviously they get a set piece, and Coco scores that really unorthodox, ugly bicycle kick that hit like a couple players before it went in the goal. But David just did this, and I mean, he shook his hand like it was super quiet. He just goes, and so he was just going back and forth, and hopefully if you guys catch the video, it's so funny. And no one said a sound, no one was there, and it was great because obviously we have a lot of people from Houston, whether it be um, Foxtrot, which obviously they live in Austin and they cover the team, so it was easy for them to make it out there. And then uh, Dynamo Fan TV was there too, which it was David, not Jorge, but we were quiet, man. We were like nobody celebrate or anything. But like David just doing that just cracked me up. And then obviously, I mean, we had to, right? And once we had to get on the like they have a little shuttle that takes us to the parking lot, we pass. And then I'm just like, forever we are orange. So, anyways, it was just kind of fun. It was kind of a great atmosphere to be a part of, and it was like 20 some. I think it was like nearly 21,000 people. So it was
Dang.
almost a sold out
Almost,
stadium
yeah.
for sure. And you're like, oh, they should sell it out. Houston doesn't sell it out, but they also had a UT game, a UT football game
Mm.
happening basically at the same time there, and so it was pretty cool, man. Um, Other than that, another thing that before we continue on about the stadium itself, and I don't forget don't forget, Chris. I'm gonna tell you a really funny story from Austin in general. So I can say that towards the end, man. But remind me if
All
I
right.
forget, okay? Because this is not the time of the space yet. So, but oh, dude, there was walk in. Everybody was really nice. Obviously, they see we're from Houston when we check in, and the guy's like, "Hey, don't do any trouble," blah blah blah. And but we're walking, and I had to get my pin, like that I do for the stadiums that I go visit, whenever I do it. And on the way there, a lady stopped us and she's like, "Oh, Bayou City Soccer," like, or I guess she just saw Bayou because we were both wearing the hats, and I guess she just saw Bayou City. And she's like, "Where are you guys from? Like, are you guys like a minor league baseball team?" And so I had to sit there and explain how Houston other nickname apart from Space City is Bayou City. So it was nice. We had a good conversation. She wished us good luck, and we got all the luck, I suppose, to enjoy the
There
game
you go.
and cover it. And I will say though, we were there. We're again professional. We're working, and we go to the back of the house to do all the post game conferences. So it was great to talk to Ben, ask him plenty of questions, and then I told David, I brought you to work, so go ahead and take care of Coco Carrasquilla's interview. And so he did a really good job with asking Coco some good questions. And I say all that so if you guys are following the Bayou City Soccer YouTube, Chris puts all those post game and or pre game and post game pressers up as soon as he can, as soon as he's available to do it. And
For real.
yeah, but you can catch all that there. But all right, yeah, moving into Seattle, right? Again, they
Yeah.
like Ben Olsen mentioned, we haven't qualified. We take this win in Austin, great. We celebrate for a day and a half, and then we're back thinking about Seattle. So that's all the focus is in Seattle, and the team is right there. We talked about we do the math every year, and we're like, 51 points gets you into the playoffs, right? That's kind of what
Yep,
it's been. And
that's the number.
usually the 51 points that get you in the playoffs, usually you're in pretty quickly. You know, you're in sooner than later. And now with 4 games left, including the Seattle match, the Dynamo are in fifth place with 48 points. So it's there. I mean, you only need technically, if you want to see it that way, you only need 3 points out of this, 12 available. Again, all very tough. Yeah, all very tough games just because everybody has that urgency to, get as many points and make the playoffs, man. But going into Seattle, again, by far not an easy task. And Seattle's right there underneath the Houston Dynamo in sixth place with 47 points, man. So
Yep.
pretty incredible. Yeah, I don't know. I know I said a lot, Chris. You see anything you want to touch on?
No, I mean, just kind of looking at their last game, they tied 2-2 against San Jose, which is, by far the worst team in the league. But when you look at, you know, kind of like their stats and everything like that, they didn't do a lot more than San Jose. And same thing. San Jose has nothing to kind of fight for. They had a few shots. Their XG was about the same. It wasn't too crazy, so it kind of gives you hope in a way that we, being quote unquote a better team, the Dynamo can go up there and put on a good show, put on a good game. So it's a matter of where who wants it more in a way, right? The good thing is that the Dynamo, we have seen that they're really a good road team this year, breaking records, history record or club history records, with a bunch of wins out on the road. So this one could hopefully be a one of those, and with a win, you literally, I mean, teams are still playing for second place at this point. I mean, only 3 points away from a second place Salt Lake, 2 from Colorado, 1 from LAFC, number 4. So nothing has been said, nothing has been said and done. And the thing is that now not only you're playing for like to be in the playoffs, but you're looking for home field advantage, which is interesting, right? Because the Dynamo have been kind of bad at home. So it's
Right.
like, do you want the home field advantage,
Hey,
or you rather go travel?
yeah, I'm gonna insert that here, that because that's perfect. I was thinking about that. Obviously, you mentioned they've had 8 wins on the road and 5 at home, which is crazy to say. And then obviously overall they had 22 points at home and 28, if that 26, sorry, um, away. So it's just crazy, right? That they've been very successful on the road, and it got me thinking. Obviously, this is going to be I guess, a plug here for the interview that we had with Eric Sviatchenko, and him talking a little bit about that and the mentality going on the road. So that's another thing that you can listen to on here on YouTube channel and the podcast feed. Um, but just the mentality, obviously, it differs. But it goes to your point, maybe it's because Shell Energy Stadium's empty, day in and day out. I think there's only been 1 or 2 games that have been a full sellouts. And other than that, Saturdays have been closed, but not enough. And then Wednesdays are no one's there. So, which
And the
is crazy.
Yeah, the good thing, I guess, the good thing would be is that LA Galaxy has some stars, or people that will that a lot of people will want to go see. And usually a lot of people go watch a Galaxy. I guess there's a lot of Galaxy fans out there in the world. They are, I mean, they are what they are, but they are a good brand. They did brand their brand really well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those clubs that people just kind of want to go out and watch.
And that's in general, right? They're a
Yeah,
very popular club for sure. I agree with you. And obviously there is a game before that being against New England Revolution, Wednesday game, Astros playoff game. I don't expect a lot of people there, and I understand it. I can't be there, right? I have
yeah.
ties that keep me away from the game because I have something literally at 7 o'clock to do every Wednesday. and makes it difficult for me to get out of it. And I understand. I mean, it's a work day, uh, or
School day.
school day. Like, there's a lot of cons, so I understand it. And if
Yeah,
people are gonna pick a venue to go, they're probably gonna go to the playoff game for an Astros. It,
exactly.
and so it's understandable. I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, you guys need to go. You guys are awful for not going to the game," because that's you know hypocritical
Yeah,
for sure. Um, but for that game against Galaxy, I expect it to be a sellout. I do really expect it to be a sellout because Galaxy always pulls a lot of fans. It's by far the biggest club in the MLS. It's for sure a world brand when it comes to the MLS. Thanks to the help of all the players that brought in, and obviously David
yeah.
Beckham and players like that, Steven Gerrard, Ashley Cole, Dos Santos, Chicharito, like all these guys that did Zlatan. Obviously, I almost forgot my
The
birthday
goat.
brother. I love that dude. Um, People are gonna show up to see the big stars, and it makes sense. And there's always been like a rivalry between Galaxy and
Yeah,
Houston that is really not spoken often about, but it's there, right? Nobody, if when we
old school.
did,
Yeah,
yeah, I think Dustin had a great idea of kind of figuring out, okay, who's the Houston Dynamo's rivalry, and by far it was still Dallas. Some people picked Kansas City, and tiny, 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 tiny was Austin FC. But I think if you would pick other, it would probably be Galaxy in general.
100.
And then we know that clearly the last 2 years I've played RSL like 30 times. So those rivalries just continue to brew on by themselves, man. But yeah, it's just crazy. And I again I think that's a match that I'm gonna make sure to try to be there, God willing. And but before that, right before that, we're gonna be in St. Louis, Chris. So um that'd be another game that we'll go watch on the road. And like David said when we recorded in Spanish, you know, they've never won there, but we had never been there, and it kind of it happened, dude.
Exactly. And I mean, same thing here, right? St. Louis also a really good, strong team at home, but this year they're not doing so hot, and the Dynamo are,
Hmm.
as an away team. So anything could happen over there. Could be three really good, useful points for the Dynamo.
I agree. So let's just your prediction, bro, for this game. You think they'll be able to get a result? You think it's probably going to be another
I
uh
think it's gonna be a
loss,
1-1,
a
a
1-1?
1-1. I think it's gonna be a tie. I don't see Seattle super strong this year. I know they usually push towards the end for the playoffs, and you know, playoff for them is a whole different thing. I think it's kind of like it's one of those clubs that like Real Madrid. It's like they just kind of go out there with a shirt, and like the shirt it's heavier and it just
Exactly.
scares
Yeah.
people, right? And I think that's what Seattle is at home.
Hmm.
Lumen Field has become like a fortress for them, and hundreds, thousands of people go out there and watch them, and they somehow always pull out a result. But I think the Dynamo are organized enough under Ben Olsen that they can, pull a at least a tie.
Yeah.
Especially with all the injuries and everything that's going on.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that's the scary part because obviously you already lost an ally for the rest of the year. You have Hector Herrera out for a while, probably won't come back till New England Revolution or Dallas game.
yeah,
And now you lose Ponce, you lose Blessing. They're just kind of adding up, and makes it a little bit more. I still believe in the team. And if
yeah,
the Dynamo pull a result, whether it be a draw or a win in Seattle, it's going to be, it has to be a Ben Olsen masterclass
yeah,
when it comes to
one
setting
hundred
up
percent.
the game because you start losing some very key pieces. It makes it very difficult, man.
And the bench is looking kind of thin. I mean,
Hmm.
it's unfortunate, but it's true.
I start. What are we gonna start bringing some Dynamo 2 player? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna start that because then it just
They're
opens up the
still young.
rails
They're still young.
for the craziness. But Christian, man, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think we're good. I think you still owe us a story,
Oh yes, yeah.
but
I'll hit you with
yeah,
the story. But no, obviously, we're hoping for another 3-win weekend like we did last weekend. It's gonna be a little bit difficult. A lot of big games for all three of our teams here in Houston. But yeah, so I'll finish it off, man. I had I was thinking of two stories, but I think the one that I'm going to tell is going to be pretty funny. Um, just because I think it's funny. But obviously, we go out to Austin. We got there Saturday morning, um, probably like around 11 or so. So we were there all day, just wasting time till we went to the stadium. The next day, we're our wives, so they're hungry and kids are hungry. So what do you do? Look for food, right? So Austin is really small. I mean, you've been there multiple times. You know how little it is in comparison to Houston. We drive. We actually stayed. I couldn't tell you what the name of the area is, but I have been there before. It's a nice little area that they're developing. It has restaurants, it has hotels, businesses, whatever. But it's really close to downtown area. It's on the south part of downtown, I would say. And this restaurant that we were going was towards like their Cesar Chavez area, I guess, like, and which is, let me see, is the west side of Austin, I suppose. But anyway, long story short, we have to cross through downtown. So like actually, big skyscrapers, big buildings. So we're going, and there's I was kind of in the middle lane, and I know that I'm adding a lot, but I think it's gonna make more sense when you hear this. And if I get you to laugh, then I know it was funny, right? And so yeah, we're at the light, and I'm on, I guess, the middle lane, and then there's a right lane, and I don't know where, like, our light is red, and somebody just starts honking, like, I mean, just you know what I mean, like going hardcore, and I'm like, what's that? And no one moved, like no one flinched. I knew it wasn't towards me. I knew it was on the right lane. And
Yeah.
I didn't really, I mean, I couldn't see, like when I looked, the car was a little too far back that I couldn't see who was in the car. And then we go, like the light turns green, we all move together, and sure enough, the car on the right is still there. But this time I can see what's happening, right? So I noticed that, I guess it was like a bigger truck that was trying to make a right, and this person was on the right lane and was going straight. But the reason they got honked at was because they had the right signal on. So, one of those, right? You're like, oh, idiot. So, and I noticed it because when we moved, my wife was like, "Oh, it's because the car has the right signal and it's still going straight," and still, she still had it on. And well, there. So we look, and this is really pretty, blonde girl, right? I mean, beautiful. She was really pretty, and but she's doing something. She was like playing with her lips, bro. She was rolling a joint in the middle of in the, yeah, exactly. There was like, no wonder her signal is still on.
She
No
was busy.
wonder, yeah, no wonder she was going straight. Like, she didn't know where the hell she was going. But I mean, this girl was in it, bro. Like, she was, had a measuring thing for
she,
it.
she
She was
she knew
rolling.
she was going. She was going high. That's what she was going.
Bro, it was like, whenever people say like keep Boston weird, that had to be
Yeah,
like
that was
the
it.
best, because especially you didn't expect it. Like, you look at this
Oh man.
girl, she looks like a Barbie, in that sense. In the you didn't expect it. You didn't expect
Yeah.
it to be rolling up a joint. And it makes a lot of sense. I thought it was hilarious. And then we noticed the license plates were from Alabama. So my wife wouldn't stop saying, "You remember La Chava de Alabama?" So it's like the joke now, Chava de Alabama, is gonna stick forever, because when you say
It's-
that, I'm gonna think of a person that can drive worth the crap, and they're more worried about
smoking
rolling up
weed.
a joint. Man, it was too funny, man. But Chris, man, tell the people how they can connect with us.
Yes, sir. You can always get us at BayouCitySoccer.net. That's the website. That's where you're going to find everything, guys. Check out our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Excuse me. That was the Coke. And at Bayou City Soccer, check us out over there. Like Rudy said, check us out on FootMob as well. If you go to the news tab on the Dash Dynamo those or the Houston Dynamo page, if you go to the news tab on there, that's where you're also going to find all the articles that we write over there. A lot of good things coming. Hopefully sooner than later. We're getting ready already for New Year, for the new season. So check us out. If you're out there trying to sponsor us, give us a shout. We have a lot of room left and a lot of stuff to do where we can put your name on it. So, and as we say that, shout out to Ugly Guppy at uglyguppy.com. Go check out any of your printing needs that you may have. They can help you out over there for sure. What?
But yeah, man. Again, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Christian, for being here. I know
Sir.
that we, again, better late than never, right? That's how it
Exactly.
goes. But man, don't forget to obviously hold it down and keep it forever orange, guys.
Sir.